and welcome to this year's In Review conversation with Blencowe Resources, which is progressing its Orom-Cross graphite project in Uganda. To talk us through the progress made in 2025 and what we have to look forward to next year, I'm delighted to be joined by Chief Executive Mike Ralston. So Mike, how has the project developed in the past 12 months and have you achieved what you set out to accomplish?
I think it's progressed a lot. I mean, we started the year obviously trying to complete the DFS, but we had to complete, first of all, to do that, we had to complete the bulk sample test program, which meant we had to mine and extract and send over to China for processing another 600 tons. So that was done successfully. We then had to embark on a substantial drill program that was done successfully. And then we obviously completed the DFS and announced those results not too long ago. So a lot of progress, definitely. And I think we've sort of finished the year on a bit of a high because we've managed to get a very strong result out for that DFS. And it leaves us in a very sort of interesting and very strong position for 2026.
Okay, so let's talk a bit more about the minutiae for new investors who are watching you and I chat away. Remind us what uses graphite has and what applications it's used for.
Well, I could sit here for a long time answering that question because I think there's over 150 applications. But in simple terms, the traditional market takes the large flake products that are produced in the concentrate, and due to its high conductivity and high heat resistance, it's a range of different products that take both those into consideration, whether they're electronic goods, whether they are blast furnaces lining the sides of them, heat gaskets, anything to do with that, flame retardants. And that's the traditional market that's, I guess, about 50% of the overall demand. And then on the other side, with the small flake concentrate, typically it's the battery market, and not just the lithium-ion batteries that everyone's talking about for storage of renewable energy and driving EVs, but also traditional alkaline batteries and lead-acid batteries as well. So I think the battery market is the one that most people are aware of, and I think that's the one that's growing the fastest going forward.
So how valuable is what you have in its current form, sort of like, dollar value for the contained graphite?
Wow, that's a heck of a question. We've got so much graphite there. There's an estimated 2 to 3 billion tons in the ground. So I guess if we're trying to start, measuring that against, about a $1,300 per ton average selling price that we've got, it gets into the many trillions of dollars of value that we're sitting in the ground. In terms of the 25 million tons that we've drilled out to reserves, obviously that's still in the billions in terms of revenue that we'll achieve from that. The actual DFS result showed over the first 15 years life of mine that we'll extract about just over $2 billion worth of free cash at the end of that, from that initial mine life. So it's a lot of value, and I think it's only going to get more valuable because certain of these applications are becoming increasingly valuable going forward. The batteries we've talked about, some of the defense applications are becoming critical in terms of what the Western world is looking for. And we've seen a lot of interest in what we've got because of that. So I think this is going to be a market that's definitely catching a lot more attention going forward.
So in terms of interest, what support have you received from, public administration in terms of local stakeholders and mining departments? Because none of this will happen without their support.
We've got a 21-year mining license in place from the Ugandan government from 2019. So that takes us through to 2040. And we've got the ability to extend that if we're in production at that point. So we're pretty well covered in terms of what we'll be mining and where. And we anticipate that we've got enough graphite within that one mining license to probably mine for over 50 years. So there's an enormous amount of graphite just sitting in the one tenement that has that license. And then the other tenements that we've got, we have exploration licenses that we can advance beyond that into mining licenses if and when we need to. But that will obviously, happen at a future date. In terms of the support, the government has been very supportive. Obviously, the mining license, all other permits and applications, everything that we need to go into production, we have. So we could literally start producing graphite tomorrow. And from the local community, we have had fabulous support as well. Luckily, we don't have to displace a single human to start this mine, so that's always a big plus. But we have a community agreement in place where we're going to pass back quite a lot of value to the local Lukoma community. And we will do a lot more once we're in production in terms of building some facilities for them and trying to give as many jobs, and everything that we can do to help them, we will do. So you're absolutely right. All that local support is vital, and I think we're in good shape there.
So what about international support? Because we've all seen the recent tweet, recent being December 2025, the recent tweet of you in the United States.
Yeah, I think that everyone is probably well aware that there's an enormous amount of critical minerals buzz going on in the States at the moment as they're trying to, I guess, take away the over-reliance on China, and in particular for the processing of it as well as the mining. So we were over there last week talking to a number of different players, be they private funds or government or quasi-government funds, to just have a look and see, well, firstly, to present our project to them. Obviously, with the DFS having been completed, we had something very, very attractive to present. And then just to see who may be interested in supporting us in terms of funding this project going forward. It's a very, very interesting landscape over there right now. And graphite being on the critical minerals list, we have something of value to showcase. So it was very well received, and I'm hoping that we're going to get some strong leads coming from that, which will ultimately give us the funding support that we need to get Orom-Cross up and running.
Now, remind us about the offtake profile, and once production commences, what do you envisage the customer base might become? Will it become purely US centric?
No, the US market itself is just not big enough to take all of the graphite that we want to produce, but we definitely want to make them a priority, especially if we're going to get funding from that part of the world. It's going to have to be a necessity that they sit at the top of the list. And we're doing everything we can because commercially, those Western off-takers definitely pay more. And we have got some very attractive off-takers from there already. And we're talking with some absolutely critical ones, such as Department of Defense and other key institutions that matter in terms of the US funding. So I think in answering your question, our priority will definitely be the Western markets. That's not just the US, but the UK, Europe, Japan, and Korea. And then, as we scale up this project and produce a whole lot more, if we have anything beyond what we're selling into Western markets, we'd possibly be looking to sell them into China. But it's definitely going to be lower down our priority list. And we'll just have to understand what the funding partners insist upon. Obviously, if it is US government, they're going to be less excited about selling any product into China. So we're just going to have to be guided also by who ultimately funds us. And we'll make our final decisions where we're going to sell and to whom based on that.
How likely, Mike, is it that Blencowe will be talking about other projects in addition to Orom-Cross in the near future?
Yeah, we had a look at some nickel land and nickel project not too far from Orom-Cross about 3 years ago. There was definitely something there, and it caught our attention, and we at the time felt that a wider portfolio of battery metals might make sense in the same country, using our experience in Uganda. But probably we found out at the time, and I think it's true today, that trying to focus on too many things can be counterproductive. It takes away a lot of the money in terms of development cash that we would need to take Orom-Cross through to production. It takes our time and our effort as well. So I think it's unlikely that we're going to go and chase anything else in the near term. I think we want to get this into production. We have a real opportunity here. There's not many graphite projects going to go ahead into production in the near term. We know from our trip to the States last week that there's a huge demand and a requirement, and particularly for some of these niche applications. So if we can be up and running in the next sort of 12, 18 months and really drive into those tier one off-takers and provide them with what they need, I think we've got a significant opportunity, and that's what we've got to focus on rather than getting ourselves enmeshed in something else.
But obviously you need money, Mike. So what kind of support have you received this year from financiers and cornerstone investors?
Well, we've been well looked after, I think, by the UK market. We've gone out to the market a couple of times this year. Most recently, I think about a week to 10 days ago, we raised £3 million. And that's been, well received by us. Obviously, we need money to keep working. The money that we've just raised will be used to launch a lot of the efforts that are going to go towards getting Orom-Cross moving quickly next year. There's a lot of preparatory work that we've got to do on the ground. So that cash coming in is vital. We've got warrant money coming in as well, which is also going to help. So I think for once we find ourselves in a very strong position financially, which is good. But it's all gearing towards that final result of getting this project up and running.
So, two more questions, if I may, Mike. What are the anticipated headlines from the company during 2026?
Well, the first one is continued drill results that we're putting out. We've got a lot of work going on there. We've had spectacular results from everything we've done so far, and those extra 180 odd holes have still got to come through in terms of the results will be published soon. So that's going to be the first, I guess, couple of weeks and even months into the new year. And then it's really about continued off-takers. There's a lot of off-takers that we think will still be coming in continuously over the course of the first couple of months as we grow the story. And then beyond that, it's going to be the funding. If we can find a decent funding solution that brings together some sort of top-class Tier 1 funding partners, I think that will go down extremely well.
And finally, Mike, which one message should investors take away about Blencowe Resources?
Well, I think the message for me is that we've done a lot of the work. We've de-risked the project. We've de-risked the company. We know that we've got something of incredible value. Now it's really all just about us trying to get the money and get this up into production and become one of the very few graphite producers going forward. And in itself, that's going to be very valuable. So let's see if we can get that done. And that's obviously for 2026.
Mike Ralston, Chief Executive of Blencowe Resources, thank you very much indeed and have a very Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Sarah, and the same to you.